every crisis arrives with at least one problem, and a panicked leader can easily create a second. Calm is not what you feel when nothing is wrong. Calm is how you keep your reaction from becoming another emergency. Allow me to tell you a story. About 100 seconds after takeoff, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 struck a flock of birds and lost almost all thrust in both engines. There were 155 people aboard, and people remember Captain Chelsea Sullenberger's calm voice over the radio. But what he later said was happening inside his head tells a very different story, and it changes what calm leadership actually means. By the end of this episode, I'm going to give you 3 practical moves. Slow, see, signal. And they can help you think clearly, steady the room, and make the next wise move when pressure arrives without an appointment. Before we go any further, this is not me pretending pressure no longer affects me. We are learning together. So comment below and tell us where you need steadiness right now. Is it at work, home, ministry, conflict, a difficult decision? What you share may help someone else put words around what they are carrying. Welcome to I Am Built for Pressure. Whether you lead a company or a church, a classroom, a family, a team, or simply yourself through a difficult week, here is the process. Slow. Slow your pace before you raise your voice. Do not answer the room at the speed the pressure entered you. Take one deliberate breath. Lower the tempo of your first sentence. Give your wisdom enough time to arrive before your mouth starts freelancing. C. Separate the real problem from the emotional weather surrounding it. Ask yourself, what is actually true? What am I assuming? And what matters first? Signal. Tell people clearly what happens next. Not the next 17 moves, just the next one. Try this. Here is what we know. Here is what we do not know. Here is what we are doing next. Here is when you will hear from me again. That is the framework. Slow, see, signal. Sometimes calm leadership does not require a 30-minute speech. Sometimes it requires a single useful sentence from someone whose fear is no longer holding the microphone. Okay, let's define calm, because calm is not the same as being quiet. Some quiet people are peaceful. Some quiet people are panicking in lowercase. And some high energy people, hello, I have met me, can still be steady. Calm is not volume. It is governed energy. And calm is also not passivity. It does not mean standing in a burning kitchen saying, I am protecting my peace, while the curtains become a testimony. Calm acts. Calm tells the truth. Calm makes the call. Calm has the difficult conversation. Calm simply refuses to let frenzy become a leadership strategy. And here's my working definition. Calm leadership is the ability to manage your pace, preserve perspective, and communicate the next clear move while pressure is still real. Calm does not guarantee a good outcome. It improves the conditions for wise action. Calm is an advantage, not a warranty. And calm does not mean you feel nothing. Feelings can attend the meeting. They just do not get to chair it. There is a reason this becomes difficult. Research on acute stress has found that it can impair work memory and cognitive flexibility. In plain English, under pressure, you may hold less information in your mind, see fewer alternatives, and find it harder to change direction. You begin clinging to the first explanation, the first solution, or to the first person to sound certain. Research also suggests that a leader's anxiety can affect employee performance through both emotional reactions and the conclusions employees draw from the leader's behavior. People do not only hear your words, they read your tempo, your tone, your face, your silence, and your 12-message text thread sent at 1:14 in the morning. The room often treats the leader's emotional state as information. If you enter frantic, people may assume there is danger and you have not explained it yet. Every room has an emotional thermostat. The leader does not control everyone's temperature, but the leader can avoid turning the dial from 72 degrees to evacuate the building. Now let's return back to the airplane, because Captain Sullenberger did not describe himself as serenely floating above the pressure. His description was much more real. Sullenberger later said his blood pressure rose, his pulse spiked, his perception field narrowed, and the shock interfered with his ability to process information. And that matters. He felt the pressure. His body reacted to the pressure. He did not become a marble statue wearing a pilot's uniform. And he described what he summoned as professional calm that really isn't calm at all. He said it required discipline to focus on the task despite the stress. He relied on problem-solving framework. He prioritized the most important actions, and he deliberately ignored tasks there was no time to complete. That is not emotional denial. That is leadership. He and his first officer, Jeffrey Skiles, divided the workload. They used training, they communicated, they handled the next critical task, then the next one, then the next one, and then the next one. The National Transportation Safety Board ultimately credited the crew's decision-making and resource management as contributing to the survivability of the landing. All 150 passengers and 5 crew members evacuated the aircraft. And here is the lesson. Calm was not a mood. Sullenberger discovered at 3,000 feet it was the structure developed on the ground. When the crisis arrived, the crew did not need to reinvent leadership from scratch. They needed to reach for the trained priorities. Calm is not lone wolf heroism. Calm coordinates people. It clarifies roles. It reduces wasted motion. It gives everyone something useful to do besides admire the emergency. But calm leadership is often misunderstood in another way. People think calm means slow. It does not. Sometimes calm moves faster than panic because calm wastes less motion. Allow me to tell you another story. In 1982, 7 people died after taking cyanide-laced Tylenol capsules sold in the Chicago area. Johnson & Johnson faced a crisis involving human life, public trust, and a major product, and an enormous financial risk as well. Under CEO James Burke, the company recalled 31 million bottles and later relaunched Tylenol in a tamper-resistant packaging. That response cost approximately $100 million, but Burke did not have to invent the company's first priority in the middle of the crisis. Johnson & Johnson already had a creed stating that its first responsibility was to the people who used its products. The circumstances were chaotic. The priority was not. This is one reason calm leaders can sometimes move very quickly. They have decided what matters before pressure arrives. Values are pre-decisions. When your priorities are clear, you do not have to renegotiate your identity in every emergency. So you can ask, what are we protecting first? What will we refuse to sacrifice? What is the truthful thing? What is the responsible thing? And what does wisdom require right now? Calm is not hesitation. Calm is direction without wasted motion. And panic often takes longer. Panic calls 5 meetings, sends 7 messages, withdraws 3 of them, accidentally hits reply all, and then announces that communication has broken down. But calm chooses a direction. Let's bring this out of the cockpit and into the corporate crisis. Your phone rings. A key person is leaving. The budget changes. A client is angry. Your child is struggling. And someone sends the message, "Can we talk?" with no additional context. 4 words with the emotional stability of a folding chair. So what do? First, you slow your pace. Not your responsibility, your pace. There is a difference. You may need to act quickly, but you do not need to react instantly. Your first impulse is information. It is not always instruction. So try saying, "Give me 1 minute to think," or "I want to understand before I respond," or simply, "Let's slow this down." And that sentence can rescue an entire meeting. A leader who controls the tempo creates room for everyone else to think. Second, see the real problem. Under pressure, people often solve the most emotional problem rather than the most consequential one. The loudest problem may be an angry person. The real problem may be a broken expectation. The loudest problem may be a missed deadline, but the real problem may be an overloaded system. The loudest problem may be a tense team. The real problem may be that nobody knows who owns the decision. So ask, what is true? What are we assuming? What matters first? Do not try to solve the entire future before lunch. The future is not a casserole. You do not have to cook the whole thing at once. Find the next real problem. Third, signal the next move. When people do not know what is happening, they fill the gaps. They fill it with guesses, with rumors, with fear, with a group chat that has somehow appointed itself chief operating officer. Clear signaling does not mean pretending you know everything. So say, here is what we know. Here is what we are still learning. Here is what we are doing next. Here is who owns that action. Here is when we will update everyone. Panic speaks in paragraphs, but clarity can usually manage a sentence. Calm leaders do not give the room a speech when the room needs direction. Now, for those of us who lead from faith, peace is not denial. It is not calling the storm a gentle breeze because we found an encouraging verse. Peace is refusing to let the storm become our commander. You can pray and make a plan. You can trust God and send the update. You can believe deeply and still ask for counsel. Faith can steady the center. Wisdom still moves the hands. The goal is not to become untouchable. The goal is to remain available to wisdom while pressure is trying to make you reactive. Now, at the beginning, I said every crisis arrives with at least one problem, and a panic leader can easily create a second one. Here is why calm leaders win. They solve the crisis without becoming another one. They do not necessarily feel less. They are not always certain, and they do not always control the outcome, but they refuse to make everyone else carry the weight of their unprocessed reaction. And the first problem is what happened. The second problem is what the leader's fear does to the room. Confusion, contradiction, unnecessary urgency, rushed decisions, emotional whiplash. But calm leaders interrupt that cycle. They slow, they see, they signal. Calm is not a weakness. Calm is power under direction. It is urgency without frenzy. It is clarity with its feet under it. Pressure is allowed in the room, but panic simply does not get to chair the meeting. So the next time pressure rises, ask, can I slow my pace? Can I see the real problem? Can I signal the next clear move? That is how calm leaders think clearly under pressure. And that is why calm leaders win. If this is the kind of conversation that helps you lead more clearly, then subscribe. And in the comments, write the one word you need most this week. Slow, see, or signal. Next week, we are talking about how the noise is training people to panic.